Hey! What?
The lift wasn't working and he was in pain, so I tried to lift him on my own. Yes, it's bad. I'll need help.
Can I help you with that?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
Being stuck in your home during this pandemic also means you have a home. Waiting in line for groceries means you have money for groceries. The isolation, being broke and totally scared about what's next. I was feeling that before this crisis. People say we're in this together, but me, I've got no one.
Youth who have aged out of the child welfare system are in danger of falling further through the cracks because of today's crisis. They need your support. Please give today at helpyouthnow.ca.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? It's your boy DC, and this is Out of the Fog. We're a local matters bop right across the province, and we're hanging out with all of the business and arts and community-minded folks who work so hard every day to help make this province a more rewarding place to live and work, and I am here for it. And I'm happy tonight because we got a trio of all-star women killers rolling in the house tonight. The first is Bree Parsons, a comedian who just in a few short years has become one of the faces of the comedy scene. We're going to hear about the amazing stories she got to tell and the places you can see her crack you up. And then we have Sheilah coming through talking about the history of alcohol in Newfoundland and Labrador in her brand new book that's coming out. And the one and only Alison Butler, superstar trainer who's delving into mental health virtually and in person to help everyone in our province up the mental health reality game we're all trying to play here. This is Out of the Fog, and we'll be right back after this break.
This is Rogers TV.
What harm can three little children possibly do?
Why what happened all those years ago? Why would she choose you, child of all people?
Some are calling it a miracle.
You have to believe.
I could smell a lie. Endorphins release an odor, and the ultimate tell, the slightest wink of an eye.
You mean like this? JJ, I admire all of your tattoos.
Damn, she's good.
You're watching Rogers TV, St. John's.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Out of the Fog, like I told you before the break, and we're back hanging out. We got a trio of fierce female killers on the show tonight. I'm super pumped. And the first of which is the one and only Bree Parsons. How are you?
Hey, good to be here.
I can't even believe you're finally here.
I know, it's been a long time coming.
It has been. It's been a lot of like Instagram messages. Love to have you on. Oh, I'm out of town. Let's do this. Rain check on that.
Tell people we're DMing each other. You can't be telling people that.
I'm sorry. It's all private times revealed here now. But you know what, though? You don't know what we're talking about in the DMs, guys. You can slide in. Maybe we add you to a group, and then you can get in on the action. It's a lot of like, can't wait to have you on the show, basically, is how it's been.
Well, here we go.
And here we go. So I want to start off, and I want to ask you, as someone who is one of the faces in our St. John's and Avalon and provincial comedian scene, who you? How does that feel to have gone from wondering if you should to now being so in the middle of it?
That's a great question. I always wanted to be on the stage, never really. I always like admired musicians and everyone else, and I don't have any musical talent, so I had no way to get up there. And then I found Mike Lynch used to run an open mic at Trapper John's, and I started going to that every single week and getting to know everybody, and I just had to get up there. So I finally did my first night at I believe whatever the levee is now.
Right.
It was at the levee, and I just got the bug right away. Yeah, and then I was producing before that, so that kind of all just fell into place.
What did you love? What was the moment? I know it's all like covered in rose dust here now, but like when you were up on that stage for the first time, was it getting the first laugh? Like, what is it?
I think it's for me, anyways. It was like, oh, everything you went through, I can now mold it into this art form. Every thing that ever caused me pain or anything, you can now put it into this art form and make it comedy. You know, I'm just lucky in that way.
It's funny because I guess it takes a lot of bravery.
They say that, yeah. It is definitely, it's nerve-wracking, for sure. I don't care if I'm in front of 2 people, 200 people, 2,000 people, I'm the same amount of nerves.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Some people say that, playing smaller, more intimate groups freaks them out, but if they're in like a bigger venue with, 50 plus people, it's way less, it's more anonymous and less personal maybe. So for you, it's all the same.
Well, I don't know, I'm up there telling stories about my childhood, about my life, so if they don't like what I'm saying, they don't like me, so.
It's personal.
A lot of my stuff I talk about is really personal, yeah. So I just like to get in there and whatever, if I have a story that I find that's embarrassing, it's like, it's gotta be embarrassing for a reason, right? So I get up there and try my best to tell it, and
Talk to me about vulnerability and how that plays into comedian times, because that's what it's about, right?
It is about vulnerability, but and just like whatever your thing is, whatever you have, that's what's going to set you apart from the pack, right? So like I grew up downtown St. John's, very poor, with this like amazing single mom, and so like honestly, whenever I can't think of something to talk about or whatever, I just goes over, sits down, has a cup of tea with her, and asks her to tell me some story from my childhood, because guarantee it's like tragically hilarious.
How many people here grew up poor, boys?
Oh, my people. The rest of you, you probably didn't know you grew up poor, right? Your parents probably didn't share with you the obvious financial burden that you were on their lives. I got a way you could figure it out. You could figure out just how poor you were by how much furniture was on your street. If you were a youngster and you're out playing tag and home base is a curbside deep freeze, you're poor! You can figure out just how rich you were too, though. You can figure out just how rich you were by how many after-school programs you were in. It's like, okay, Catherine, I get it. You got a purple belt and you know how to swim.
What has growing up in the heart of the A1C given you as a gift?
I think desensitization, maybe. Nothing. I think the biggest thing is like I don't feel better than anyone else. I feel like 2 wrong steps in my life and I could be anyone else, and so that allowed me to like get to know people I may not have gotten to know and listen to their stories and tell those stories too,
It's funny because I find that that is true in the city. It's such an eclectic community and it takes all kinds. They're rolling by in the sports cars and they're crawling by begging for change, and that definitely does something to your appreciation for people.
Oh yeah, and you're no different than either of them. So, it's just, it's been awesome to feel so small in this island and just one person, and then be able to take your act on the road, and it's not just funny here, other people get to relate to you too, so.
Are Newfoundlanders and our sense of humor appreciated in other venues you've been at off the island?
Yeah, I thought, I was on an airplane months and months ago, because we don't do that anymore, on my way to Alberta to go on tour with Scott Belford, and just before we were landing, I was like, what am I doing? I'm definitely, I've only performed, to my friends and family in own province, maybe it's not going to translate there, but I had such an amazing time over in Alberta, and there's tons of Newfoundlanders over there, so that helps.
That's perfect. So, what's next for you? Because obviously playing the different local scene has been great, and your name has gotten out there so much. It's allowed you to sort of produce different shows and do cool things to keep the scene growing and bopping. So what are those things upcoming?
Up and coming, actually, the hero of St. John's, Brent Mack. I don't know if you know him very well, but he is he has not stopped. He's still producing. The coolest thing I've done since quarantine was he produced a show in Bannerman Park, and that was awesome. Everyone was just social distancing in the actual park, and we were in the gazebo, and that was amazing. And coming up, he's bringing in Dan Hendrickton and Claire Belford on the 14th of November at the Rock House. So tickets are on sale for that. And I'm currently in the works of producing a comedy drag show.
Talk about it. Come through with that drag.
I'm really excited. I've never worked with drag queens before. I'm obsessed with drag.
Me too.
And you know what? It is comedy. That's the thing, right?
Oh,
so my goal is to have drag performances and then have the drag queens actually do comedy alongside of us, the stand-up comedians, and kind of combine those worlds, right? And they're so hilarious. They're up there hosting all the time anyways. They're doing comedy. We're just going to meld those worlds together and make a bit more more of an inclusive environment, and I'm just so excited.
That is so fun.
So that's going to be at the CLB Armory on the 27th.
Okay. Guys, Bree Parsons, Google her, check her out on all the feeds. She's wicked. She's doing great things for the industry of performance and comedy, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Thanks.
Guys, Out of the Fog, we'll be right back.
All right, girls.
Mom, you said it's played again.
Workplace injuries hurt the most at home.
If you only knew what I'm going through, I just can't smile without you.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Out of the Fog, and we had a great little hang just then, and now it's Hangsy number 2 with Alison Butler. What's on the go?
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm really excited to be talking about this subject for 18 reasons, and I want to start off by talking about mental health as a macro subject, how important it is to understand that mental health realities are in all of us. There is no, in my opinion, disease or illness. It is realities that we deal with in a bunch of ways every day. And that's my own ethos, and some people beg to differ, and I think that we need to be more progressive and vulnerable and open around the subject of mental health, and we've come a long way. Would you agree?
I think we've come a long way, and I also think we have lots of way to still go, and that's partly where I hope that I come into the conversation.
Well, let's start that. What within you gave you the idea to become a trainer in the field of mental health?
There's a few reasons, really. One comes back to my own personal story. So in my mid-30s, and I talk about this all the time, I had my own mental health crisis that I did not see coming at all. I was a professional, I'm a mom, I have 2 kids, and things started happening that I didn't recognize and I didn't identify. And it was no one particular thing, it was a lot of small things. And when I discovered my mental health diagnosis, everything just sort of started falling into place. And I knew that all of my experiences leading up to that point, I am a speaker, I am a trainer in other capacities, and I knew that I wanted to use my own experiences to be able to help other people. And that's where my interest and my passion related to mental health kind of started.
I think that's important to have lived experience, and I find a lot of the organizations and criteria around the community of mental health invites lived experience into the conversation, which I think is amazing and actually critical. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I train, so I'm a mental health first aid trainer. I speak about my own experiences. So I think that, you know, everybody has something unique to add to the story. Because you're right, we all have mental health. I like to say 10 out of 10 people have mental health.
Yeah.
We all have a brain, and we can all be affected by stress, affected by life events, affected by so many things.
So true.
And so everybody's mental health story is unique and different. No 2 people look the same. And I think it's so important that we hear from many people and hear their experiences around mental health, because it doesn't all look the same.
It doesn't, and I think creating space and inviting space for everyone to, if not to tell their story openly and overtly, but to reflect on their reality. I think that's step one, because we're so busy in our day-to-day lives, and that hamster wheel is at an all-time high, and yet do we afford ourselves those moods and moments to sit back and evaluate how we're feeling and how the people around us may be feeling and the compassion we might need or want to show people in our lives? I think that's step one of anyone's journey into assessing mental health? Because some friends, they didn't realize they had a problem until they actually gave themselves some self-care and some attention.
I totally agree, and I feel strongly that so many people don't know the moment when a mental health challenge might come their way for themselves or for family members. And I've actually spoken to so many people because I love engaging people in conversations about mental health. I've spoken to so many people recently who've told me stories about their own mental health challenges and how they actually came after the period of stress. The body works in mysterious ways.
It does.
And so you just don't know. And I want to see everybody be more educated about mental health, be more prepared to handle different types of mental health challenges that might arise in their daily life.
I think it's very interesting you bring that up. I want to have a quick moment to talk about post-traumatic growth. Have you dealt much or learned much about that? Because post-traumatic stress, a lot of us know that happens after a major event. And now there's a subject coming down the pipe around post-traumatic growth, which is we are able to become more compassionate and more sensing of other people and ourselves after an incident occurs, which I suppose goes back to say that, you know, it only makes you stronger, or at least you hope it does. Hey?
I agree. I would say that happened for me. You know, I thought that I understood mental health. We have this idea from media and things that we see, you know, celebrities talking about their mental health, but a lot from just movies and TV shows. So I thought that I understood mental health, but until I experienced those things for myself, I really didn't have a full picture and was really able to develop much deeper empathy and compassion for myself, but also for other people around me.
Which is interesting, right? It's back to the whole gift conversation, and sometimes, you know, it's not what happens to you, it's what happens for you, but you have to have the tools, which is where your training is so amazing. So what can folks who visit Alison Butler, who sign up for your training, whether in person or online, which is exciting, we'll talk about that in a second, and maybe you want to answer both in one, what will folks walk out of your training with?
Okay, so there's actually two components. So Mental Health First Aid is a 2-day certificate program provided by the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and I'm a trained trainer for that program. That is an amazing program that helps people understand mental health, and for me, the important piece of that is being able to have conversations with others around mental health. I think that's the piece that we're all kind of a little bit afraid of, is how do we have those conversations with people, whether they're in crisis or we feel like they might need supports. So that's an in-classroom training, but I'm also going to be, starting in November, offering that training as a virtual program so that people can participate from anywhere in the province. I am so excited about that. So that's our partnership with the Mental Health Commission of Canada. And I also have my own online training specifically for business owners that's just launched. And it's a self-paced class to really dive into, I share a lot about my own story, the resources and supports that I wish that I had as a business owner back then, and really gives people a better understanding of supporting themselves and also for others as well.
Well, I can't wait for folks to check you out. If you're watching this program any of the times that it's going to be showing on this amazing network, please check out Alison Butler, Mental Health. Google it up. You're going to find her. You're going to sign up for her program virtually or in person, and you're going to walk away with some valuable information to help not only yourself, but the community around you, and that is what it is all about. So any parting words before we jump?
No, I just think that everybody should make it a part of their personal and professional development to really gain a better understanding of mental health and to kind of put that in their toolbox. I think it's something that we all really need to be more understanding of and more aware of.
Well, I'm very thankful for you and what you do, and we all should be. This is Out of the Fog. We'll be right back. This was Alison Butler, and we'll see you guys in a few seconds. Welcome back, everybody. It is Out of the Fog, and I have been so excited to hang out with the lady who probably knows more about drinking in Newfoundland and Labrador than anybody else. How you doing, Sheilah?
I'm fine, thank you.
So glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'm going to read a little something from the back.
Sure.
In 1617, Lord Falkland's colonists in Newfoundland were instructed to bring over, amongst other things, 20 barrels of ale and so on. And now, 400 years later, from the famous kitchen parties to the bars and pubs of George Street, the history of our cultural traditions is intertwined with the history of liquor and beer. You wrote that, didn't you? She wrote the book, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. It's called Bottoms Up, The History of Alcohol in Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, I'm going to start with the obvious. What drew you to it?
Why did I write the book? Well, it just seemed like a logical thing to write about. I mean, I enjoy history, and most Newfoundlanders do, and there's so much written in the way of history, but no one had written a book on the history of alcohol, which to me seemed sort of like a very obvious thing to write about that most people would be very interested in. So there you go.
A writer all your life? Celebrated?
Well, I've written for a few years, yeah.
What draws you to writing?
Gee, I don't know. I just enjoy it. I enjoy the process. And it's a solitary sort of thing, which I enjoy. And it's just, it's a lot of fun.
A lot of research too, I'd say.
Oh, that was a tremendous amount of research.
For people at home, you know, books don't show up at the Costco shelves. Like, they take a long time, and they start with an idea and major research and a lot of work and a lot of things. Talk about how long it takes to go from you sitting down one day saying, I should write a book about alcohol, to now us sitting here.
Oh, my nerves. It turned out to be a lot more to it than I thought. I keep coming up with these ideas. Oh, this would be a good idea. And think, oh, I'll get that done in a year. It'll only take me a few months. Yeah, right.
It's wild. So it's a process.
It was quite a process, yeah. Because with research, it just gets really exciting. Research is addictive. You find one thing, and then you go after something else, and then that leads to somewhere else, and you're just all over the board. And for me, I just end up with all this stuff, and I got to somehow put some order to it and put it in a book. And that's the hardest thing. The research is easy.
Distilling it down, as they say, to borrow a term from the book itself.
And I had a great editor or two. I had two great editors, James Langer and Jocelyn, and they helped, and we got it done.
So, I mean, you know, I got a special interest to the downtown bars, and I'm not sad about a few kegs of whatever showing up. So what about this book do you think will surprise folks from the province?
Ooh, I suppose what surprised me most was, like, in the history of alcohol here, looking at the different centuries and what went on, I suppose the skullduggery, the politics, and also the fact how many women were involved in the alcohol trade. I found that really interesting. You know, you just don't think of it, but...
well, tell me more about that. That's interesting.
Well, I think really what happened, well, if you go back to Old England, the women were traditionally the brewers of ale. They were the alewives. I suppose they cooked and they brewed ale. And so they naturally had the taverns, and they ran things and sold alcohol.
Wow.
And then, so it was sort of women and booze went together a little bit as far as creating it and making it and selling it. And when it came to Newfoundland, back in the very early days when the colony of Avalon started up, Edward Wynne, who was over here, wrote back home to England saying, oh, well, we need supplies. Something like picks, axes, whatever, shovels, and maids who can both brew and bake. So, I mean, the boys were off fishing, and they needed someone to brew the beer. Because back then, they didn't tend to drink water. They thought water was unsafe. So everybody just drank beer.
That
must have been a happy time.
Oh, I'd say it was a time for sure. No wonder so many kids running around back in the day, hey? And no TV either, I suppose. There's so many reasons.
No, it was an entertainment thing. Booze and alcohol, and I mean there was quite a lot to the whole thing, actually, why we drank booze or alcohol and beer to begin with.
I want to ask you a question that you tease in the book. What did we drink 400 years ago?
Well, starting off, they would have, everybody, as I say, everybody drank beer and ale. And it was sort of interchangeable. They used the same term for both back then. And something called small ale, which was a weaker version of the beer, and that they fed to children. Yeah.
Colicky baby, you know what to do.
Well, don't even mention that. I mean, up until recently, they had alcohol in colic medicine, right?
Wild.
Yeah, I know it is.
The commercial anyway. Doctor's Book of Home Remedies used to be on back in the day at nauseum. Colicky baby, run the vacuum cleaner. As a kid, I'd say, why? So you can't hear the baby cry? Talk to me about the most popular drinking establishments of the past.
Oh, my. Well, perhaps the oldest one in St. John's was the original Ship Inn, which the Parnhams, when they started their ship pub, they named their pub after the oldest pub in St. John's, which would have been the Ship Inn. And they figure it was located around where the War Memorial was.
Oh, wow.
And that was probably one of the earliest. Now, of course, there were people selling alcohol left, right, and down the center.
Sure.
I mean, alcohol was a big thing here.
Right.
And I go into that in quite a bit of detail, you know, where it came from and how it got here, yada, yada. So that's in the book. Back to what people drank. Beer, also something called aquavitae, which was a distilled liquor, sort of the forerunner of brandy or whiskey, that sort of thing.
So any primary research during the making of this book, or I don't know, what do you think?
Well, there were many frustrating moments, shall we say, and I'm sure I tasted a few beverages along the way, yes.
Well, that makes you an expert through and through, I'd say. Before we let you go, where can we get this book and when?
It just arrived today. You can pick it up at Breakwater. It's probably in the bookshops, or it will be in the next day or two, and it should arrive at Costco tomorrow.
Well, that's amazing. I'm very proud of you, and we're all very thankful that someone like you took the time to tell the story about one of our favorite pastimes socially around this place. Bottoms Up, A History of Alcohol in Newfoundland and Labrador. Sheilah, Roberts, Lukins, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I can't wait for you guys to read this book. This is Out of the Fog. We'll be right back.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight here at Out of the Fog. We laughed and we learned with the likes of Bree Parsons and Sheilah, Roberts, Lukins, and Alison Butler. 3 courageous females, fearless in what they're doing under the umbrellas of comedy and writing and mental health. And I think more of us want to lean into conversations about what we can do to make the most of our talents and our gifts to help make this province what it deserves to be. That's why we hang out here every Thursday on Out of the Fog, and we hope to see you again next time. From all the volunteers and all the sponsors and everybody who helps make this show what it is, we will see you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
This is a picture from Hungary. That's my father. And it's a picture from your documentary. It's the same person.
There's more here than meets the eye. There's some really good secrets.
Canadian citizen is executed in a third world country. We're not going to do a thing about it.
The federal agents, they paid for everything.
I'd be very careful before I print anything about this case.
Or what?
You must be the reporter. Come with me.
So, Miss McGill, how does it feel being Canada's famous women engineer?
The real story is the work we've done retooling this factory.
To build the Hawker Hurricane?
Indeed. 40 planes last month with a capacity of up to 100. Our fighters are over England as we speak. Of course, it pains me to see airplanes mass-produced like boxcars or baby carriages. But in war, we make concessions in favor of innovation.
You must feel at home, though, managing all of these women.
I'm not here to manage women.
Well, you must admit it is an unusual job.
I'm the chief engineer here. I do what engineers do.